Hello. This was quite possibly the longest run-in intro that I've had so far. I was running a bit late because, as I previously tweeted before beginning the stream, my cat would just not leave. Which meant that I was only able to muster the courage to push him off of my lap 5 minutes prior to my starting time, which gave me very little setup. Now then. No, that's not the reference to this one. There we are. So then, I should be working on the arms at this point. I saw a couple of images that sort of visually explained, I guess would be the best way to put it, the way to draw assets underneath obscuring clothing. One of them being the art of Maury Calliope in a convenience store that's been making rounds. I'm trying to remember what the other one was, but I don't quite remember. I just remember that it's mainly to do with shading. You don't really need the hard line to form the base. You just need the shading, although I guess the hard lines are helpful for determining where to place the shading afterwards. So I'd probably want to put that on another layer. Another thing is that they go outside of the frame of the body. So it should not be constrained within the frame of the body, it should extend outwards. So let me hide this sketch real quick and see how the torso looks itself. Okay, so the size of the clothes does actually help somewhat in that effort. I'm also going to connect this line here because it bothers me. Now then, let's move onwards to the next arm. Let's see, for this, I think I actually want to bring our Firefighter reference over here and bring him to the front. Because we don't really need to see the rest of the body in order to get this right arm down. So then, that's where it joins the head. Yeah, and it's practically what I have on the sketch already. The hand's going to be simple as well. I don't have to ad-lib a hand on the other side. I guess this one's further twisted around it so you don't see the fingers. This original art can be fairly difficult, as I have learned during this process. It's a lot less simple than going directly off of reference images. Nope, I'm on the wrong layer. I'm glad I caught that quickly. Alright then. So I do just want to follow the lines of my sketch. There wasn't too much that needed changing. Perhaps dimensions. It does get narrower here. Can't actually see the lines because they're on a layer beneath the Firefighter. So I do want to keep it becoming narrower, but not quite as narrow as I have the final, or the initial sketch. Let's see, I think it actually closes in a bit too much. I think this elbow should come out further, like this. Yes. And then just straight down. No, it needs to be a more straight line. Let's actually do a bit of cheating with the straight line tool. No, Now I can follow that. Make the line look a bit more natural. I should probably do that on a separate layer though. Although I have no idea how to quickly switch between layers. So it's a bit of a hassle, just to create one for the purpose of having a more natural looking line. Alright, so then it'll come in like that. This arm might be a bit too long. Perhaps I have the axe angled incorrectly. Let's see. If we compare it to the other arm, which is further back, so should appear shorter, but not by that much. Let's just create a new layer for the purposes of measuring. Now then, if I take a line from the top of the shoulder down to the base of the hand in a straight line, it's about that long. Now if I move that over here, that's from the shoulder to where the base of the hand is on that arm. So yes, the arm will be about a hand longer, which might not be too visibly obvious, so I am somewhat fine with that. It's a very difficult thing to portray. Hopefully it doesn't look too off. Maybe Moody can incorporate having a slightly longer left arm into his lore to accommodate for this. Alright, well, let's bring back the Firefighter reference. Thumbs go on the inside. So wrist, forearm does not narrow very much, but it does come to a cuff right around here. Okay. And the cuff faces slightly upwards as well. Let's see. The arm is connected to the cuff, or just about on this side, and that goes into the thumb, but it's not connected on this side. On the glove makes the hand all wibbly. That's not a detail that I was particularly paying to at the other one, although I guess in my final artwork I will try and pay that some mind. Let's see. So hands come out a bit because of how the wrist connects. There, like that. Now then. Perhaps I can shorten the wrist a little bit because... Yes, because that's not where the thumb would be. It looks like it's split his arm in half. So I can actually shorten this. Let's see, which is better for me, because that makes the hands look slightly more equidistant. Yes, that's a bit better. Already, I can see some improvement off of it. Yeah, that's already far better. Now then, I want to do this so that the sleeve curves back around. And I need to make the corners match up. There we are. Let's, alright, pixel measurements time. Something that I truly wish I did not have to do. But now it looks too wide. So perhaps I should just narrow the sleeve itself. Come now. Don't be so recalcitrant. Here we are. And connection point. That looks fine. Ah, that's... the material looks too thin. Ah, there you are, Moody. Welcome. I'm working on your left arm. And I'm trying to convey the thickness of fabric. Which I believe works if I use a boulder line like that. Yes, I'm by no means a professional artist. I simply like art. Alright. Time to work on everyone's favorite portion of art, hands. So then how does the thumb connect on this side? Alright. So it sort of just appears like that. There we are. Yes, I've never actually put too much effort into working on art or anything like that. It's always just been a mild interest of mine. I've had friends that are fairly good with art, but I myself never really practiced anything to do with it. I always thought it was something that was beyond my capabilities. Until I realized that now that I have become a Vtuber, I can just do things. So that was very liberating. See, knuckles aren't very well defined. Maybe I'll shallow those out. I do also tend to watch a lot of art content creators, because I like seeing finished art as well as the process of making it. Less definition in the knuckles, but still clearly evident that they're there. This hand may have been far easier than the other one. I can just take out the hidden portions of the axe, and perhaps that's all I really need, other than drawing in some glove detailing. Yeah, I just need some wrinkles for pinched fabric in the glove. Like this, and now I bunch up the exterior. Ah, oops, those are on the axe layer. Let's bring everything back. Move to torso. No, I've not seen her before. I'm assuming that's her Twitter @. Smaller eraser. Yes, the main inspiration that I had for starting to experiment with art at this point was a YouTube channel called Drawfee. They're a channel that I've been watching for a fairly long time, several years at this point. There's a bit of bunched fabric at the crease there. I also decided to modify the original to give you a fire axe instead of a shovel, because I felt you would appreciate having an axe a bit more. then, that's about it for the very basic details. Perhaps the bunching should have moved up a little bit more, but I'm not entirely certain on that front. It does look like it's a bit high up. Yes, I'll address that now. Let's see. No, I could probably fix this by lassoing and dragging it, but I'm still so unfamiliar with that that it would probably take me more time than redrawing. Yes, that is one of their more popular videos. In fact, I think that might be their most popular video. Although typically they just take random prompts. Yes, I do believe that drawing things as Dark Souls bosses is their most popular video. Yes, that looks a bit more natural. Alright. Perhaps the angle is too wide now? Yes. Yes, at this point my art is entirely experimentation, seeing what works and how well things go together. Alright, I'm also going to thicken the fabric outline on the other hand so that it matches stylistically. Let's see, what was that, a 7? That looks about right. I don't want it to recurve up there, that's not how the sleeve bends. To move down and around like that. There we go. That does match a bit better. Alright. Now then, I can get the band outlines. For the wrist, I believe I'm doing outlines in size 2 brush. Yes. Okay. So that's for the safety bands. I should probably get rid of the extraneous lines first. Let's see, since I am basically doing a very amateur commission, are there any details that you would like to see specifically included? Or any requests that you have, Moody? I'm also assuming that I should be calling you Moody. Is there anything else that you want to be called by? Torso frame should be fairly standard boxy. There's not going to be too much hip shown since this is a firefighter outfit, although I guess I can divot it in a bit more just for slightly unrealistic emphasis. Let's see. Alright, let's get the firefighter out of the way for now. Yes. Oh, back to torso. Right, yes. Yes, there wasn't too much going on in the previous stream. Sketching is not the most interesting portion of drawing. Let's see. Let's make that slightly less narrow so that it doesn't look anorexic. Just proportionately shaped. There we are. Muddy? Yes. I'm trying to... One of the things that I find very fascinating is... what's it called? The study of the origin of words. It has a actual name, but I often forget what it is because it sounds like the study of bugs. I think it's entomology or etymology, something like that. I find etymology very fascinating, and one of the main aspects of etymology is pronunciation and accents. So I'm wondering what aspects of language cause the pronunciation to vary between people. Alright, so let's see, the center line of the chest. Let's see, the center line of the chest is fairly important for determining any bumps that may occur. So, since the head is turned slightly to the left, but the torso is turned to the right. Let's see, yes. No, opposite that. The left side is forwards, and the right side is back. And the head is facing towards the left. Yes. Yes, the body is facing to the right because the left side is forwards. So the head and the body are facing in slightly opposite directions, but neither of them are turned far too much. So the line of the torso curves slightly to that side, which is somewhat represented by the seam down the center of the jacket. So, because we need to emphasize the center of the chest, the line will dip in a little bit at some point. So it's good to know where that is. So, the breasts start around the corner of the armpit. And if we are going off of the prompt, which I believe was humongous, I had the prompt saved and on a separate screen, but it didn't transfer over. Let's see. It should be in my downloads folder still. Somewhere in here. There we are. Massive, not humongous. So then, let's see. From the base side down, let's just form a simple triangle. Let's put this on a new layer. I just want to get a good idea of the shape when it comes back up to center chest around here. Let's hide the hair for the time being so that it's not in the way. And we want a smooth ellipse all the way around. Not quite smooth enough. Okay, so that's just about the general outline. Let's see, perhaps I have it curved too much in the center. I'm not much of an anatomy expert. So... but that one should be slightly obscured because of perspective. So... But also... it's going to be partially hidden. And it does... Okay, base is here. So then, because of the heavy clothing, there we are, just meets the arm here. Perhaps this side of the torso is smaller than the other half. That could also be causing a conflict. Yes, it looks like it. fair bit smaller too. Well, doesn't seem particularly noticeable, especially if we get rid of the center part here, because that won't be visible. All that should be visible is the base, which is slightly connected here, and we'll have shading underneath, and this line should come back out around here because the fold under. I did catch your lore drop, I did. It was very good. I am thinking about how to do mine as well. The art also looks particularly cursed without the hair. Alright, but that is roughly the proportions that should be visible. So that's fine for now. I can move on to getting the final version of the legs. Yes. I don't know how disappointed it would be possible for me to be. I don't know. Writing is such a subjective thing as well. I particularly enjoy fantastical elements in stories. However, some people... Yeah. Yeah, some people prefer sci-fi. It's all very subjective. Okay. So, let's see. That comes down to around crotch level. Fairly perfect. Also, the image is slightly poor quality, but it looks like there's a belt that cinches there. So it does actually become tighter around the waist and lower belly. So if I just have a wide belt here, let's see, it should come down to around this point as well, it looks like. So just sort of a wide sash. It goes like that, and it's split in the center to accommodate the center part. Okay. So now, just erase this extraneous line here. And then get rid of my guiding lines that I put behind the axe. Alright, here we go. What does this look like without the sketch on the base? It looks very flat. Ah, and the belt cinches, so it should be coming somewhat straight down. Maybe a little bit wider at the base. And then that can spread outwards a bit more rapidly. That's fine as well. Yes, I should probably consider getting my own lore drop done. Let's see, if you'll permit a bit of character breaking, I actually didn't even consider it too much up until fairly recently. It was always more an afterthought than anything. Let's see, and have the line connect in like this. So that it looks like it's one piece of fabric overlapping another. Alright. Now, legs. I don't have any reference for what the legs look like, because this picture cuts off mid-calf, like most VTubers. Or not even calf, mid... What portion of the leg? Thigh. How could I forget what thigh is? Alright. But baggy pants. I'm just going to assume they're practically just cargo pants. Yes. Alright. I don't think there's too much detailing that particularly needs to be done here. Let's see. Let's see, fairly straight downwards. Legs should... Let's see. Oh yes, I positioned the legs specifically because one of the prompts is energetic. So I tried to create a pose that conveyed the idea of an energetic person. But I don't exactly know what that means. It's very difficult to convey energetic. The only real way I got that was through the open-mouthed smile in opposition to your fairly dour, mildly unhappy expression. Ah, right, the scar. I knew I had forgotten something. There we are. Yeah, something... I knew I was missing some aspect of the face. Oh, right, no. Firefighter reference. It's just because it's off screen. That's why I didn't remember it. Alright, bring you down here, buddy. Now then. So then, the lines for the thighs are, or not the thighs, but the connection point of the legs are slightly wider here, sort of this shape, because they aren't following actual leg lines, they're following clothing lines. Yes, most of what I'm saying is also purely interpreted. I have almost no idea as to what I'm actually talking about. So then, let's see, I wanted this to be a foot stepped back and this to be a foot stepped forwards. I think the easiest way to convey that is through having one foot be slightly larger than the other. Although I'm not entirely certain. Oops. Let's see, the line of this leg. The legs are going to be fairly broad looking. That's almost just a natural consequence of the clothing. But also, orcs probably have thick thighs in general. Alright, this may just look like you're slightly off balance. Also, I think the legs are too short. Let's just move this entire thing up a little bit and make the legs a bit longer. Let's see, also move it a bit more center screen. Although it could be more stylistically interesting to have it slightly off to the left. I don't think it needs to be centered. Alright, don't want to cut off too much at the top. There we are. Yes, that's significantly better. Alright, let's give these legs a bit more breathing room. Have I been drawing on the Firefighter reference there? I have. I do this so often. Alright, well, let's semi-transparent these and draw them back onto the... I probably should have a leg layer by now, instead of torso. I'll do that, since I only have a small portion of it drawn on the torso layer anyways. Yes, most of my art knowledge is purely picked up from watching other people draw. I've done almost no research into it myself. I'm sort of just learning by doing at this point, which is how I do most things. If you look at my first stream, I'm moving at like 1 frame per second. Look at me now. I can perform my breathing cycle in mere seconds. Also, please don't go back to my first stream. That can stay buried. Alright, now time to get rid of the false lines that were on the Firefighter layer. And balance is restored. Back to legs. Also, Firefighter can come back from its inopacity. I guess I should have said transparency there, because that is the opposite of opacity. Alright, so legs can be longer. Also, angles can be less extreme because that is not any position that any living thing's leg should be in. Well, unless they have legs that are built like that. Okay, so this left leg should be a bit longer because of foreshortening. Now then, time for the part that I genuinely find far harder than hands, is feet. So this is probably going to be a boot that's being worn, so... if I am remembering how to do this, we want the front of the shoe. Oh dear. Let's see. I guess the foot will be pointing straight forwards. Let's just create the base of the hem of the pants, so that we can have the leg in boot coming out of the base. So that creates some differentiation, so I don't have to keep tricking my mind into thinking that I have to draw a leg smaller than the leg itself. Okay. So, in perspective shoes. Or, if you don't mind, Moody, I could just cheat and have your feet out of frame. What do you say? Thanks. You can either have bad feet or no feet. Pick your poison. Alright. Well, that also means I'm Safe to move everything back down to bottom frame. There we are. I can probably just get rid of the sketch now. Because I should have the rough outline done. Okay, sketch disappear. Rough outline appear. Alright, these clothes don't look particularly baggy, but that's fine. I can roll with it. Alright. Ah. I made a noise like I'd discovered something, but I'm not entirely sure what I discovered. Alright then, so. I tend to have an easier time fixing details once I've started coloring. So then, let's move the Firefighter up. Make my moody reference visible. Alright, I did also want to include details. So, let's see. Safety, straps. I can't believe I just sort of started moving on when I hadn't even finished. That is something I tend to do. I get very impatient. I just want to finish things quickly. Now then, we have one safety band here. And the other safety band will be across center chest area. So that'll also be fairly helpful in defining the chest. Alright, so I will save that until later when it's actually got to be a part of the drawing. So, now moving on to the hat. Let's see, here's the blur tool. I want to make this line slightly less defined. Come now. Blur then? Oh, right. Layers. What is that part of face? Yes. Okay, so I can make this. I just wanted to make it slightly transparent. It's going a bit extreme. Just fade it out a little bit. Perhaps blend then would be the better, or blur rather than blend. Yes, that is far better. Alright, I will increase the brush size. Because that is not meant to be a hard line. I'll also draw in the name on the hat a bit better. It's not going to eternally be childish scribbles. Alright, so then I can just blur out the rest of the hard lines that are meant to be impressions. There we are. This actually feels like the best job I've done at doing something like this. I typically leave things as hard lines and then color over them and shade afterwards. But that seems like it might be fairly effective. Alright. Now then, time to put color on its own layer. Those should be down around the bottom. So then, hat color. Now, I don't know how to perform the masking option, I believe it's called. which allows you to select items and put them on their own layer, so that like the outline of an item becomes its own layer, so you can do something like this and not have the color bleed over the edges. Instead, I simply have to go in and manually erase any color that escapes the boundaries. Which is probably the least efficient part of my art process. But it can be fairly cathartic to clean up. It also leaves me with the least to talk about in terms of my thought processes and what I'm doing, which is typically what I am doing on art streams. So if there's any questions or any thoughts you would like to share, those would be appreciated at this time, now that I can actually interact with people while drawing. There we are. I have also been learning how to blend colors recently and do shading, having worked on thumbnails and the like. Some of which I'm fairly proud of. My photo editing skills are a fair bit better than my photo creation skills, as it turns out. So I don't know how many people saw that post that I made sharing the thumbnails that I created. I was somewhat concerned that my music might be repetitive. I do only have the one song, and it is just a, what is it, 3-minute loop? Something like that. I was considering possibly adding more to the playlist, which I will probably do in the end, but as long as this is fine for now, I am fairly satisfied with that. Let's see. What are some conversation topics? Yes, I have been fairly gradual about my process right now. I was concerned earlier about how slow my growth was, but now at this point, I am actually rather happy that it's been as slow as it is. I have trouble interacting with just one person in chat at a time. I think my high point was I had 2 people at once, and that was very concerning to me. Now then, the base of this brim should be solid. Should also probably slightly more symmetrical, now that I'm thinking about it. I did only really rough it out. Should probably be a bit more careful with the lines. Oops. Okay. Time to do geometry proud. I'll make as consistent a line as I possibly can. That looks a bit better. Perhaps bring the curve slightly further out on that side. Narrow the edges. So it's consistent thickness throughout. Touch up the narrow spots. I'm gonna have to bring that line down a bit further. But now I can go back to the hat color and get things back into position. Erase the center lines. Let's see. Go back and blur a little bit more. Drag down a black line a bit further on that side and blur it. That's because it's on the color layer, not the actual hat layer. So it's blurring with yellow and not transparency. And this way I don't have to worry about it interfering with the actual hat. Alright, now then. Let's see, so this is metal. So this is actually going to be slightly differently stylized. So, get rid of the chicken scratchings there. Let's pick a general central color. And now, back on the hat color layer. Thicken the brush and color the interior metallic. There we are. So, let's see, Moody, I haven't particularly talked with you that much. We interact a fair bit on Twitter, but I don't know too much about you. Let's see, there was a discussion point earlier in the episode. I think it was to do with From Software. Oh dear, my cat just suddenly appeared. It'll take him a little bit, but he'll get out of my way. There we are. I have a cat bed set up directly next to my computer chair that he will often jump into while I am working. Yes, I did see that. I consider it somewhat frequently. I'm like, I could DM people. I have a general rapport with some people on Twitter, but it's, I don't deal well with complicated situations, I think is the best way to put it. So I can focus on Twitter, but if I then also have to suddenly deal with messages from people and various other things like that, it starts to become overwhelming. So I tend to gradually move into things unless I directly force myself into doing something. That's the only reason that I started VTubing in the first place, was because I forced myself. I very impulsively spent the money necessary to become a VTuber, and I basically said to myself, you are now forced to become a VTuber, or that money was spent in naught. Or for naught, rather, in vain. See, I don't think that's going to be... Oh, no, it's fairly visible. I was worried about its readability at a distance, but it's pretty fine. Perhaps I'll thicken it up by a couple pixels. Oh, that is the wrong color. Yes, yes. Sorry, I just went quiet while reading your message. Yes, that has been something that I have had difficulties with for a while. I wouldn't necessarily say I struggled with it. I have had several jobs as a public figure where I am expected to talk with people and interact with them. And even in some cases, provide entertainment, various things like that. Nothing so specific about my private life, but I do force myself out of my comfort zone fairly routinely. It's just something that I have not started doing as a VTuber just yet. Let's see. I'm trying to think what to write along the top. Can't be too long. See if I can't get adventure to fit in here, something along that line. That E hit the bottom line, which isn't good because it's the same color as the base helmet. Oh, it's so close. No. Adventure. Any thoughts as to what I could put in the top column of your visor? I'm all ears. I have... How many words did I get in? 1, 2, 3, 4... About 7 letters worth of rune. For now, I will move on to hair. Let's see. Retone. Yes. Just don't feel the need to come up with it too quickly. I can move on to other portions first. I'm just going to color in flat lines into hair and then go in afterwards and get the highlights. Let's see. Also, personal preference question. Would you like your eyes to be visible through hair or obscured by hair? Anime girl characters typically have their facial features showing through hair, unless they are more serious type characters, I think. But I'll leave that decision up to you. And it's a fairly simple matter to obscure it afterwards. So, not to put more on your plate, but another question has been added to the pile. Okay, that seems like a good choice. They're both equally easy. For instance, I could just make the hair layer visible over the face layer, or I can make the face layer visible over the hair layer. What is being obscured here? There is some layer in front of this that has white on it. Where is this semicircle coming from? Time to hide layers until I can find it. Ah, it's part of the face. Why? How did that happen? Alright. I think I'll keep the facial features visible. Oh. I guess it wastes the least amount of effort. Keeping the face details visible. Ah, oops. I did things on the wrong layer again. There we go. And now I can just bucket fill these remaining areas. That's always a thing that I forget I can do. I mistrust the bucket tool a lot in this app, because sometimes it tends to merge colors together at the borders, which is typically not what I am aiming to do. But it's very useful in many other circumstances. I think the ponytail is probably the best thing I did on this. Just out of personal opinion. It's actually far more simple than I thought it would be. It's a repeating pattern that's fairly simple to draw once you know what you're doing. There we are. No bucket fill. Okay, and I can go add highlight colors once I have the rest of the details down. So, let's see. You have yellow eyes and black pupils. So then, moving on to face color. Okay, I'll also get that leader on the... Why is that? Okay, I thought it was covering the eye for a second there. That would have been very odd. Base layer is definitely higher than this one. Base yellow, and also slightly darker shade for the top, although that might just be shadowing. But having eyes be two-toned is fairly typical design. So I'm going to say it's, at the very least, appears to be two-tone. And then in the center we have black pupils. I think I might want to draw the pupils on later so that I can blend them in. Yeah, it's fairly small pupils. Okay. Let's get rid of the pupils for now so that I can blend these colors together, give it a smoother gradient. Simple. Alright. Looking better. I also discovered that that is a fairly nice way to get a dead-eyed look, is to just blur them and leave the pupils out. It's very haunting looking. Right, so let's get a pick of skin color. Oh, I only have the ear on one side. Oops. That should probably be fixed. Skin in front of hair isn't too bad. All I have to do in that case is go back and erase the skin that's extra instead of the hair. It'd honestly probably just take longer to go to the fill tool and fill that in. Oops. Don't want any of your skin to get into the eye. So I feel like the correct word would honestly be respected people who are good at drawing. The ability to simply create whatever you wanted at a moment's notice is always something that I have wished I was able to do. Just the amount of ideas that I have that have never been able to escape my skull. Hopefully I'll be able to do something about that. Alright, now time to do a little bit of spot treatment. Get this skin details out of here. Too much. I also need to see about getting a tablet, as drawing with a mouse is definitely causing me some fairly major issues. I tend to draw things in one flat line instead of properly moving my strokes like you would a brush. I actually undercompensated in this area. The area where it seems like it would have actually been easiest to overcompensate for color. Then where was I? Back onto the eraser. Back to conversation topics while I'm doing simple coloring. I am currently very much anticipating Elden Ring. I don't know if you're following any of the news to do with that at all, but that was also one of my major inspirations towards becoming a VTuber, was wanting to be able to play Elden Ring as a streamer. I think that would be an interesting experience, because I've always found Dark Souls streams to be very interesting. They're things that I would often watch. The From Software games are particular favorites of mine. Yes, there's not much to look into. It was announced about 1.5 years ago with one trailer, and then there's been nothing since. I have 2 people in my chat room now. Incredible. I'm not almost done, no. I'm working on coloring right now. I've got most of the general body shape done. I'm going to work on shading here later. Moody gave me the okay to chop off his feet, so I didn't have to draw that because I legitimately find feet far more difficult than drawing hands. But I guess when you start on the coloring process, that is typically the latter half, or even latter quarter, possibly even more of the art process. I tend to start coloring fairly early from what I have discovered, though. Alright. Because you can still see there are still some extraneous lines, and I haven't gotten into details all that much. Let's see, okay. Ah. I'm missing a connecting line somewhere. And that somewhere is that I fill bucketed on the wrong layer. That should have been on face. Okay, but I'm still missing something. Ah, face color. I swear, I understand this program. Somewhat. Alright. Now let's grab some of the scar color. So that I can get that. More definition. Perhaps I should blur the scar line so that it's not as apparent. How does it look on the official artwork? Yes, there's a bit of a hard line there, but nothing very specific. Yes. So I was talking about Elden Ring earlier, Mitz. Are you familiar with Elden Ring? Keep slightly exceeding the outlines at the base here. There we are. This is a fairly new experience, having multiple people in my stream at once. Someone who's obsessed with shiny things? I mean, maybe. Specifically, I'm talking about the From Software game. I don't know that they mention shiny things in the trailer. I've got it nearly memorized. I've rewatched it so many times. But I don't know that shiny things are ever mentioned. I'm assuming you might be mistaking it with Precious from Lord of the Rings, which is what Gollum says. Oh, that didn't get colored in for some reason. Odd. No? Ah, it's on the wrong brush. That's why. Oh, I did also tweak with Nightbot so that it stopped being so sensitive. So I think caps spam is... caps and emote spam are a bit more tolerated now, so you don't have to worry about being banned so often, or timed out, rather. Oops. It's on the hair color layer, that's why. That's fine. A little bit of hair color layer never hurt anyone. Let's get the lightest portion of the eye so that it's not shaded too heavily. I can start coloring this portion. Yes, that's a fair bit darker than plain white. Perhaps I should lighten it up a little bit since it's primarily drawn in shadow. Let's see. If I'm to come up here. Yes, I don't think that aesthetically works without shading. So I can actually just do this along the top line. Like this. By that's great, are you talking about fixing the chatbot, or did you watch the Elden Ring trailer? Because they're both pretty good. I'm assuming that's more to do with fixing the chatbot, since that's what I was talking about previously. Alright, now color modification. Let's bring you all the way to the far side. Maybe I want the far corner even. Yes, that's a more white color. I'm assuming that's filling it. It's very hard to tell. I think I'm going to do a good old trick. Give myself a background layer. So that when I'm coloring in off-white, it's actually visible. So a standard color set. I was actually just going to call it standard color set, even though that was already the name. Alright, so now that the background is red, I can tell where I have yet to color. There. Shade the eyes slightly. I'll probably also want to... Oh, I'm drawing on the background layer. I really need to pay more attention to what layer I'm on. Perhaps I should also use a smaller brush now, since I'm filling in finer details. I can always fill tool with this. It's fine. Makes using smaller brushes slightly less punishing. There we are. Fill. And I'll do a little bit of blending. Ooh, that's not what I want. What layer is this on? Why is it that when I blend them together it becomes slightly transparent? Blend, maybe? No, that's still transparent. Okay, well, I guess it's stuck like that. Alright then, so let's just get the lettering in now. See, that should be 2-point hat color. think the spacing on that works out. Does look like it might be a bit front-loaded. How does it look zoomed out? Yeah, that's fine. All right. So, oh, the interior of the mouth. Let's clean that up. Face color. There we are. All right, and unfortunately, my reference image of Moody has his mouth closed. So I don't actually have a reference for what the inside of his mouth looks like. So I'm just going to assume fairly standard pinkish. I do have teeth though. Teeth are on the outside of the mouth. Okay, let's get a big old zoom in, get the centerest pixel. And that should be good. Come on. Oh, I'm on eraser. That's why I didn't draw anything. Tooth. Perhaps the outline of the teeth should be a bit thinner. Yes. So that'll be on the face layer. I can just erase small portions of the outline. There. It's a bit better looking. Let's see. Looks like I should actually shave off the exterior of that tooth. There. That's better. Back to face color. Fill in the tooth. So it actually has more tooth coloring to it instead of outline. There. They are not very symmetrical. Let me work on that then. It's a lot easier for me to see any errors that I have in the coloring process than when I'm just drawing. It's an unfortunate curse. Say a bit less thick. There, I think that's better. Back to face color. Line everything. Oh wait, no, I don't want it to be red in the end. Okay. First thing first, I want tongue color. So that'll go in the center of the mouth. Edges slightly obscured by... I don't need to be using such a small brush for this. I can't use a large brush like that either, but it shouldn't be that small. So, tongue. Oop, slightly too much there. Alright, and then I believe I can just darken this a little bit. And that'll get me the background of the mouth as well. Let's see. So then for darkening, let's see. This is better. darkening would be towards the bottom left. We'll just take a slight detour. How does that look in comparison? A bit brighter, actually. So maybe around here. A bit more vibrant. I think that should work. Picking colors to use on my own is also a very new experience. This drawing is much more difficult than anything else that I have done up until this point, considering art. And there we go. Another example of making one large stroke, making a mistake, hitting undo, and seeing 10 seconds of progress vanish into the ether. There we go. Yeah, that's basically a finished face. I just need to... Oh, I've got a couple areas that need to be filled in, and I just have to add some highlights, and that'd be a finished face. Where's hat color? There it is. Okay. Onto hair. Remove small pieces of excess. If I wasn't determined to finish this today, this would be a very satisfying stopping point. Although I don't think I've been streaming for that long, I just feel like I've accomplished something. I don't think I would actually stop here. It just feels nice to be done with something. Oh, face color is in front. There we go. Right. That was something that I had forgotten. The second ear. So then it'll be mostly hidden behind hair. Oh, and I didn't do any of the ear details either. That was something that I meant to fix. Let's see. What thickness was this outline done in again? I believe 3-point brush. That looks a bit too thick, actually. 2-point instead. That'll be fine. So then, back up here. Yes. It's not much is poking out on the official either, so just be smaller triangle like that. Oh, it's on the color layer. That's fine. Things can be on the wrong layer from time to time. Oh my. I've just glanced over at the viewer number, and I believe this is the highest amount of viewers I've had since debut. That's nerve-wracking. Maybe a bit higher up. Let's see. Just lasso this and move it by itself. Yeah, that's better. All right. That is face and head, mostly done. Let's see. I'm assuming you're still here, Moody. Do you have any requests for the color of the scrunchie? I can do whatever you want, but as for now, I'm going to move on and get back to that later. Okay, so I need to start from a small, more detailed point so that I can work outwards from there. Well, you're Mitts. You're not Moody. I mean, you can still give your input. I don't particularly mind. Any input's fine by me. Alright, so then let's get clothing color. Okay, so this is now a broader area of clothing, so I get to use a larger brush. Maybe Moody did leave. That's fine. He's under no obligation to stay. Oh no, you're still here. Alright. Do you have any input on the scrunchy color for your ponytail? Yes, I either assumed that you had left to do something and had the stream on in the background or something like that, and you were simply too busy or preoccupied to answer. Yes, honestly, the biggest thing I was worried about was telling you that I was doing this because it felt like you would probably want to come watch, and I was afraid that I was holding your time hostage. It's very relaxing just working on simple coloring. I suppose once I properly figure out how to do highlights, it won't be quite so relaxing. But for now, simple detail cleaning, color picking. My favorite color is purple, although I do remember you saying that your favorite color was orange. So if you didn't respond, I was planning on making it an orange color. There we are. I did overextend a couple pixels. Alright, I'll do that then. Seems fine. Oops, that's the eraser. Let's see. Alright, let's get a good shade of purple then. Let's see, I prefer it towards the darker end of the spectrum, somewhere around here maybe? How does this look? Bit darker. Maybe this? Yeah, that seems about right. I have a hex code saved somewhere of a particular purple that I like the most, I think. It's an odd way of describing a color, but it is a color of or shade of purple that I particularly resonate with, but I don't want to spend time digging through things to find it. Yes. Alright, there we go. I also apologize that I am zooming in and out frequently. I am somewhat aware, or I have heard that that can be nauseating in a viewer experience. But I'm also just not used to the fact that the scroll wheel only zooms and does not move the canvas at all. It's very difficult to get used to as well, because that's the opposite functionality of how every other web page or browser or anything of the sort works. Okay, so that is a black to dark gray band at the base. I'll be a bit thinner on this one because I can't be bothered to make it too much thicker. Alright. I should probably also work on getting some of the gadgets and protective equipment on the torso of the jacket, but I just want to finish coloring the arms first so that I have a outwards point to work in from. Simply more convenient. There's probably a hotkey that allows you to scroll the canvas around, but I have yet to find it. I don't spend too much time using this program outside of when I'm streaming. I probably should. I should get into the habit of doing practice more often. I recently watched a video on how you should be practicing drawing, and I did try doing what was shown in that video. The main issue is it's a video that assumes you are practicing using a tablet. Since I'm just using a mouse, I'm not very capable of making quick movements or drawing with any amount of speed, which makes following tutorials like that fairly difficult because I operate at a much slower pace. Let's see. This color can be darkened because it is on the interior of the jacket rather than the exterior. Okay, good. That is demonstrably not black. Or visibly. I shouldn't say demonstrably. That's not even close to correct grammar. Alright. This safety band should also be moved down on the arm as well. See, this is what I mean about having difficulty spotting problems in my works before reaching the coloring stages. Once I reach the point where I need to pen something into detail, to the point where I can't go back anymore, that's the only time where I realize that, there's a mistake with this, or anything of that nature. That is also something that people on Twitter may have noticed, is that I tend to also use excessively complex wording. It's just a habit. It's not actually any form of act, it's just how I speak. And I do wish that my brain wasn't constantly attempting to force me to sound far more sophisticated than I need to. So that's that out of the way. All right. Let's see. I'm going to attempt to start working on the center area of the chest. So then, first thing I'm actually going to do is clean up these lines a little bit. Remove the hidden portions of the arms. Let's see, onto torso. Remove hidden portions. See if that makes this look any more cohesive. Ah, right. That's on its own unnamed layer. I forgot. So, despite this being just a rough sketch, I feel like this is about the proportions that I want to aim for. Let's see. So now back to torso. Yes, those proportions don't look too far off. I just need to get the shading in correct, get the body line of the zipper in so that it's curved back on itself. Let's see, I can't actually go to torso and get rid of this line that's going through the ponytail, or the braid, rather. Yes. That already looks a fair bit better. Alright, so I'm just going to get rid of that torso line and then start this center torso line a bit further to the right so that it gives... So if you do something like this, it looks like the curve continues underneath. If I can get the angle correct. Something like this? No, not quite. Curve's a bit too extreme. Like this. See, this is where my current level of artistic talent starts to struggle, where I have to start creating 3D space. I think perhaps I need to move the center line of the body even further to the right. Now all you are getting are musings about how to create space. How do I react to that? It's not a situation that's really come up previously. I don't have a experience bank to draw off of. Probably just... Let's see. If I were confronted with that situation, I think fight or flight would come into play, and I would simply excuse myself from the situation. That seems to be the most accurate response. I see what's wrong. I got it. It needs to curve up. Or not up that extreme, but... I said that as if I knew what I was saying, but... in reality, I think I might be slightly wrong. I am slightly wrong. They're too separated. I'm just saying things as if I know what I'm talking about at this point. They need to come together slightly more. That's my new conclusion that I have reached, and I will keep reaching conclusions until I get the right one. There we are. I think that's correct. see. Okay. Let's just break off from the connecting line. That's probably the most excited I've sounded in my entirety of streaming as well. Thinking I've found a breakthrough in how to accurately draw breasts. This is something that I have very consistently had trouble with, actually. It's probably the weakest area of my art, which I guess isn't to be expected, or is to be expected. Drawing spheres is notoriously difficult. Okay, I think it wants to be this sort of effect. So then when it comes down chest center, it should fall into a divot here and then curve back up, maybe? No. It needs to reach the center point. I do wish I could just magically be good at art. I'd solve so many of my problems. Right, so center line of the torso comes down like this. Continues on like this before reaching the divot in the center chest. It should reach the middle. And then this line can come out slightly offset from it. Okay, I am going to see if I can't find the reference that I had been looking at previously. Let's see. So you're going to be looking at a flat screen right now. It's not going to change very much for a little while. What was the name of that show? It was the one that was... I think it's made by the same creator as Steins Gate. Occult 9, that's the one. That has a fairly good reference for realistically proportioned, yet exaggeratingly large bust. I'll see if I can't find a good reference. Let's see. What is the name of this character? Don't know. Let's see, back to all. Guess I'll just go to the Wikipedia and try and find the character's name. This is probably incredibly engaging. Aha. I found the name, Ryoka Narusawa. Yep, this is very specifically what I meant. Just trying to find a direct facing forwards picture. Why is it that all people need to draw things at angles? Well, I think the best picture was one up at the top, so... Oh, but it's thumbnail size. That's not going to be very useful. Okay, here we go. This will do as a reference. All right. So, this is the sort of visual that I'm now trying to emulate. Unfortunately, the key part, which is the torso directly under the involved areas, is obscured by her arms. Okay, but looking at it, I realize I need to convey this sort of appearance so that you can see that it is moving inwards from a central point. So I need to do something that mimics this shape. Let's see. So that already looks slightly better. I think the only thing for it is to get the shading correct, which is only something that I can do with color. So I think I'm just going to have to start coloring. First things first, I do have some additional details that I would like to add to the torso. Ah, that's also helpful because the band across the chest, the safety band. So the shape of it will be something like this. There we go. It was a bit quiet in there because I had to focus on drawing straight lines, or actually the opposite of straight, they're entirely curves, but I wanted to get that done in one motion without messing up. Okay, so maintain consistent thickness, should narrow in the center because it's moving away from the observer. That's already looking a fair deal better. All right. And now I wanted to get the shoulder strap from the original design in as well. In addition to all of the other elements of a firefighter's suit. So, if I can move layers around, firefighter reference, go behind. There we go. So that meets around this portion of the waist. And because it's a strap, it moves directly over the chest, so it won't follow the line of anything either. Yes, elucidating a bit more on your previous comment, Moody. I am, as I have previously stated, an unnaturally say-so Vtuber for someone who is both half orc and half incubus. It is quite unfortunate, really. Let's see. follow a roughly equivalent line on the... Oh, I'm on the Firefighter reference layer. All that work I have done has been for naught. It's fine. The work didn't go particularly detailed anyways. Okay. Let's just put this on a new layer then. Okay, so the perspective should change slightly. Yes, that is something that I have noticed. And I guess mentally I am slightly more middle ground than I put out. However, it's not something that I typically engage in. It's something that I tend to hold back. I don't know if that's the best wording for it, but it's about the general mentality that I have. Let's see, back to torso. This also helps out a lot, having the strap here, because I can show that it is coming off of a raised surface. It's fairly useful. I think the torso might be too long. Oh. As soon as I said it, I realized that the torso is incredibly stretched out. Like this whole section of stomach can just get collapsed down in on itself. It's not too difficult of a fix. I can do it. It's just kind of annoying that I only noticed it now. Yeah, the torso is, I don't know, roughly a few inches too long. So then, I just need to take the axe layer. Okay, now. Maybe it's slightly more difficult than I thought. No, I think if I just do this, cut that out, and then delete that. Oh, I missed the cut tool. Cut that out. Right? Oh no, I'm on the wrong layer. That's why it didn't work. Back to torso. Cut. And delete the torso layer, which leaves me the empty space. And now I select this portion of the torso and the head. I don't think this will actually work. Let's see. If I select this portion of the torso and move it up, that's what I need to do. I was getting far too complicated with it. I probably also should have had more layer than just the torso. The arms should have been their own separate layer. That's fine. Okay. Cut. Ah, oops. Select for movement. Bring that up. Say maybe a bit more. Let's see. Maybe that's proportioned a bit better. Although I am worried about making it too short and having overcompensated. Well, I can always undo it back to that point. And now I can move everything but legs down a little bit so that they match back up. I think this will be fine. This looks relatively accurate. Okay. But that does also mean that I now need to erase what is behind the axe. Fairly simple enough to do. And then recorrect some lines, and I'll be all set. By the way, are either of you noticing any hissing sounds when I make S noises? Or is that being canceled out? I have a fairly mild lisp that I have mostly trained out of my speech patterns, but it does tend to creep back in every now and then. And it's something that I'm fairly conscious of while talking, because I hear it quite a lot. Okay. Let's see, back to this. Right, the slightly cinched belt. So I should make this portion somewhat tighter in. Okay, that's good. It is also possible that it is part of the experience of hearing your own voice. Because, as you may know, you don't hear your own voice as it is. You hear it as it reverberates through the bone and flesh of your skull before reaching your inner ear. Which I think is absolutely fascinating. So it is entirely possible that that is phantom sounds created by myself hearing my own voice. Yes, that's what it does to everyone. Everyone hears their own voice far deeper than it actually is. Because your flesh and bones don't conduct high-pitched noises well. So you only hear the deepest aspects of your own voice. Which can occasionally lead to people being hilariously overconfident in their own voice. Getting everything back together. See, that line came in too short. Is that a part of his? Ah, that's part of the original portion of the torso. Well, you hear your you hear what your voice actually sounds like when you hear it in recordings. There's no distortion from external sources in that case. So if you hear your own voice as it's recorded, then that is what you actually sound like to others. Yes, but in most cases, you hear your voice as a lot more high-pitched or low-pitched when you hear it in your own head. It's not a complete mystery to yourself what your own voice sounds like, because as long as you listen to a recording, your voice is fine. I've watched a couple of your streams. You aren't irritating. I did recently receive a bit of a confidence boost involving my voice. One of my favorite VTubers, Anamakia from Niji Sanji, Indonesia, recently had a 200k milestone celebration, and one of the things that she did later on in the stream was inspect a hashtag that she created for people to submit fan works in. And one person submitted a voice clip thanking her. And it then became a precedent for other people to start submitting voice clips and thanking her. And when she got to my voice, she sounded surprised at how deep my voice was. So that was nice. At the corner connecting points of the belt, there should be a slight indent like that. Yes, but the body is basically designed to force you to be uncomfortable hearing your own voice, because it sounds so close to what you sound like, but just ever so slightly different. Okay, so now then, I can grab all of the layers. Let's see, can I just Control A? Will that do it? No. Okay. Can I do something with this button? No. I just want to be able to mass select all layers so that I can, except for legs, so that I can move everything down and rejoin the body. There we go. And reconnected with the legs. Perfect. Oh dear. Well, proportions are a bit off. This leg's now joining into nothing. I wonder what caused that. I don't think I changed the proportions too heavily. I think I do need to just widen the torso there, though. Torso copy. Let's extend this out. Widen the hips. Okay. So that's a bit more accurate then. since it's hidden behind the hand, the connection point can be slightly ambiguous, although I will curve this top line in ever so slightly so that it looks a bit less disconnected. Alright. I'm getting fairly close to being done with this now. I just need to get coloring in, finish a couple more gadgets. Let's add the detailing onto the belt, the iron straps. Something that I would like to do is start designing characters so that I don't have a reference to go off of, because it almost feels like it's too easy. And I know that's a fairly lofty statement, but it feels almost too easy to draw characters that I have references for. Because I can just copy details and elements from the original and I know it'll look good. For instance, the hairstyle is virtually identical. I just took the shorter half of the hair and turned it into a ponytail. So, like, it's got the same center spike, the same parts on the left side. The air is very dry here. Oh. I think I might need to grab a drink fairly soon. Because I just breathed deeply and I felt as if I was going to be unable to speak for the next few minutes. Okay, there we go for the clasp. That looks fine. I'll thin the connecting line. There. Yes, that's better. Okay. And I should take it. Oh. I guess the straps of the belt are part of your legs now, because I forgot to change layers. It's fine. As long as I don't have to move anything around anymore, it shouldn't be too messed up. Okay, and since these are clothes that are being worn, I should bunch up around the sides of the belt. And the belt presses into them. That looks like it's part of the torso copy layer. It is so very unfortunate that I have two separate layers to deal with in regards to the torso. Okay, and that's what should be happening here as well, because this is also a belt. So, let's see, create some slight wrinkles, lines on the fabric. Let's see. Line like that. Perhaps a bit more vertical. No, not quite. There, that looks good. Spot detail erasing. Oh. Wrong layer. Or mix of layers, not necessarily wrong. fabric bunching. I do enjoy working on small details like this, but a part of me always feels like I'm missing a far more obvious and simple way of doing this. Oh. Oh, you can scroll by having your mouse over the scroll bar, but it scrolls so far. It scrolls an entire page. That's almost completely useless. Well, at least I've found a new shortcut that I will probably never use. Okay, bunching it around the belt. Right, and let's come over to the firefighter friend. It's been oh so helpful. Alright, it's very hard to make out any details on this. The image quality is not the best. Alright, so there's a pack. I'm probably going to skip out on the majority of these details, but I will add in shoulder straps, because those can add in another layer of perspective. It seems fairly useful as well. So just to avoid confusion, I guess I can just put these on the existing shoulder strap layer that I have for the one going diagonally across the chest. It's turning into a Final Fantasy character design, where you have 15 belts strapped across the entirety of your body. Okay. Because those vanish. Let's see. So the strap comes down like this, and then vanishes. Okay, and this strap will come up underneath the across the body shoulder strap. So, see, the external side comes down like that. The internal side comes out from underneath and rejoins here. And that covers over the crease where the arm meets the torso. So that can get erased and turn into a hard line there for a vanishing point. Right. These should also come off of the shoulder a little to denote that they are straps that are going over the back. I guess I should also do that with the other shoulder strap, which will come off even farther. Let's see. So now if I remove the torso layer, first things first, getting rid of... Oh, that is on the torso layer. Well, the layers were similar enough anyways. So there, if I get rid of the torso layer, those straps look to be slightly elevated. Ah, and if I slope this down slightly more on a diagonal, it looks like it's being raised up by that one, but resting on the shoulder coming from there. Right. very functional. Okay, I think I have enough details out of the way that I can start coloring. So, time to start taking references. This is the general beige of the uniform. So I'm just going to blanket color in all of the large areas of beige. So this is jacket base color. I'll move that down so that it's with the rest of the color layers. Now I can get a very large brush and just start going to town. Clear up the details later. Some of the... Oh, right. That's not going to be permanent. It is the color that is on the highest layer. I can actually just move it so that it's on the lowest layer. Which honestly makes the most sense. It's probably how I should have thought to do it from the start. Because since I've already gotten the details of all of the higher layers, and I'll have less to take care of when I need to go back and fine-tune the rest of it. Now on to details and erasing. Come on, let's get these last few errant pixels cleared out of the way. Cleaning. All right. So, since I have once again entered a fairly simple stage of drawing, if there are any questions or topics that anyone wants me to discuss, I am fairly open for talking about anything right now. If not, I can simply cast about, think of a topic myself. Let's see, what is interesting? What do I find particularly interesting? I do know that there is a fair amount of delay on this. I could talk about games that I'm interested in playing in the future. I'm currently holding back a bit on Code Vein because of the issues that I was having. I think it may be that my computer simply isn't good enough to handle as many processes as I need running at the same time if I want to stream that game. So that might simply be off the table until I can afford a better computer. However, I will continue to attempt to experiment because I would like to get that game done. I am enjoying it a fair deal, so I wouldn't just want to leave it off of the table. As for other games that I'm interested in playing, there are the two games that have been in production hell for a very long time I would like to see played. The first one I talked about earlier, which was Elden Ring. And the second would be Silk Song, which is the sequel to Hollow Knight, which is a Metroidvania game, if no one here has ever played it. It is a Souls-like game where you play as a little bug. You don't look particularly bug-like. The game says you're bugs, but you just sort of look like tiny people with very large abdomens. That is a game that I enjoyed a lot. I finished it a while ago, so I don't think I would consider playing it on stream. I don't particularly find interest in watching streams of people playing games that they have already played. Sometimes they can be fairly well done if it's a game that I particularly enjoy, or if they are a speedrunner, or they know various secrets about the game, or very specifically if they are the second fiddle to the person who is actually playing the game and is new to the experience. That's also something that I have been interested in doing. One of my driving motivations to want to start streaming as a VTuber is that I enjoy helping people. So that manifests in a couple of ways. I just like talking with people. Despite my outwardly non-communicative personality, who typically moves away from talking with people if I have any excuse to avoid conversation. But I do generally enjoy talking with people. It's just starting it that I have the most trouble with. But also, I like working with people, which means that guiding people through games or simply talking about things with them, that's another driving motivation that I had to becoming a VTuber. But also, for a while, I've been fairly interested in online content creation for many years, honestly. I've just never had the motivation or drive to pull the trigger on actually working on it. It's always been a very distant what-if situation in my mind. But I think at that point in time, I was simply viewing it a bit too much as a business. But honestly, just doing things on stream, even in the times where no one is watching, is a lot more interesting than normal. It makes me focus more on what I'm doing. Because one of the issues that I tend to have is that I try and do too many things at once. And I end up not focusing on any one thing at a time. But fortunately, talking while doing something makes me focus on what I'm doing. And explaining my process allows me to solidify through repetition what I am doing and what needs to be done. So it's been a generally positive experience. I think it's honestly just beneficial for me to be able to talk, because I live a fairly quiet lifestyle. Up until I started streaming, I would probably say a few sentences a day. And more recently, I have been in a situation where I'm not easily able to leave my house for various reasons. Slightly more personal reasons. You can figure out what it is. I did talk about it when I was alone on stream yesterday, because it's, not something that I particularly want to bring up, but it's not something that I really care about people knowing. And also because it's fairly non-specific, so I don't like to make any concrete statements about something that I am not certain about. I've forgotten what the original topic of my conversation was at this point. I am also on a fairly completely new topic, and by fairly completely new I do mean completely different. I'm slightly worried that Twitter is shadow banning some of my posts for some reason. Either that or I'm not nearly as interesting as I thought I was. But one of the things that prompted that was I did a similar one of these art pieces. I did it off stream for Hanamakia's 200 subscriber special. But it didn't show up under the hashtag. So that was very peculiar. But also, I made a post talking about how I had started editing thumbnails for my VODs that I upload to my YouTube channel. Purely because I wanted to be able to be better organized with my videos and putting them into playlists. So it made the most sense for me to organize them by thumbnails. And on the post I made about it, I didn't get as much engagement as I do just on text tweets. So it felt like that most of my uploads that include images aren't being as widely shown. And I'm not sure if that's true, or if there are some other extenuating circumstances that I'm not aware of in how Twitter works. Because up until around a month ago, I didn't view Twitter as a platform for someone like myself to post on. I simply followed other people. And me posting was a feature that I barely even considered. So I'm not very familiar with how Twitter itself even works. It's just something that I use because it's the only place where the Vtuber community is, I guess, publicly available. I know there are many private Discords, but I find it even more difficult to talk in a personal setting than I do shouting into the void, which is Twitter. I don't know what the figure's at right now, but I also recently cleared, I think it was 30 followers on Twitter. I think I'm at 31 or 32 right now, which is nice. But I was thinking of doing something similar to what I'm doing right now, and having a little 50 followers celebration if I hit that milestone, in which I randomly select someone to get a quote-unquote commission from me. Of course, the art will be this level. It's not a very exclusive group to be in, the first 50 people to follow me on Twitter, so there's not too much at stake if you aren't a part of it, but it's something that I had considered. But I'm nearly finished, I believe, in getting the details on the base color of the jacket cleared up. There's just a few more sections to erase. I'm not entirely sure why this particular piece is taking me so long. The art that I did for Hanamakia's celebration stream, I was able to finish fairly quickly. I did it in a single day, and it's about the same level of quality as this. I guess her clothes are slightly less complicated, and I didn't have to do an original design. I think I also did a far worse job on the face, which is where I spent quite a bit of time on this picture for. I barely adjusted the face shape at all post-sketching process, so it's just sort of an oval with no defined face shape. So that's unfortunate. But I wanted to get it done quickly, and I only had a day to do it, so quality sort of fell by the wayside before speed. But with this one, I can take a bit more time with it and really get the details out of the way. I also didn't have to worry too much about getting breast shape correctly, for fairly obvious reasons. Let's see. Do I have any other off-the-hat topics? Nothing in particular that I can think of at the gate. Let's see. I had something to reference or look at. Perhaps I might have something to say. Right. That's the basic layer of the coat colored. I'm going to have to get wrinkles and shading involved, because now that I know how to do that, I probably should. I should also include a collar, because this just sort of looks kind of wrong, even though this jacket doesn't have a collar, but it does just sort of meet up with the back of the head there. I think the jacket is shaped a bit too much by the hood for me to not include it. So I'm just going to include a very simple line, and then I'll refix the shoulders so that it looks more like fabric folded over on itself. Okay, so what does the... Oh, it's covered up by the gas mask, so you can't really see it. I will just assume... Let's see, move on to the torso layer. I'll just assume that it comes down from the center, and I will also assume that I should draw my outlines in black. Comes down from the center like this. Perhaps fold it a little bit. Have it come over the side like that, so that it looks like it's properly a hood. There we go. So now if I erase the torso lines like that, and then go back to the jacket base color, and move off of the eraser. There we go. That looks a bit more like it's a jacket and not just directly connected into the neck. Right, now back to the base color. I'll have that disappear behind the ponytail. And then, just for continuity's sake, it come back over on the side like that. Okay, and to make it appear as if it is the interior of the jacket, I can simply darken it a bit. Yeah, that looks like it's probably a good enough color. Okay, and for this job, I will be a bit more specific with where I'm coloring, and then just fill tool in the center. Okay, I'm on jacket color, good. I was worried that I had forgotten to switch layers like I so often do. And then just do that. There we go. Yes, that looks a lot better. Alright. That shows that it's on a separate layer. Ah. This portion is under the jacket color layer. Well, I guess I'll do some good old single layer coloring. And act like I'm still using MS Paint. Alright. There's a little portion of chin that's not colored in completely. Alright. There we go. Okay. That's a bit better. Ah, you know what? It would probably actually be better. Ooh. Ah, that's why it did that. I was on color. I think I'm starting to lose focus right now. which could either be entertaining or potentially very detrimental. Let's see, how long have I been going on? Nearly 3 hours at this point. Ugh. Okay. I think I'll finish the flat coloring today and then potentially move on to shading at a later point. That won't take me too long, I don't think. I don't think it would exceed any more than a 1-hour stream. However, I don't want to completely lose focus. Yes, because I'm already finding it a lot more difficult to focus on drawing right now. Let's see. Yeah, I'm starting to get layers confused. I'm looking like specifically at layers, and I'm not remembering what's on it. Clothing is above... No, clothing color shouldn't be above hair color, right? Alright, I'm gonna zoom out and see if this messes with anything. Ah! Right, clothing color is just the gloves. I have jacket color that is separate. Because I am the master of forethought, and I can plan for anything. Just grab these couple errant pixels. Oh, there we are. Okay, so now, right, I took a break from that, from what I was doing originally, which was getting the base, the lower portion, the almost skirt-looking portion of the uniform, because something else looked wrong. Ever so slight details. I just want to have the flat colors done so that I can put this on Twitter so that you can have a finished or closer to finished version of this moody. I also noticed when I was looking at your profile earlier that you do have an art tag, so I can put that under it. I don't know if that was a recent development because I don't remember it being there previously. There we go. It is very liberating finishing a piece of artwork. Working on art is so difficult. It is one of the most painful things I have ever done. But I also enjoy playing the Dark Souls games, so I guess I just enjoy triumphing over adversity. I very specifically would avoid saying that those are masochistic tendencies, because they are most definitely not. It is the feeling of triumph rather than the feeling of oppression that is what I find excitable about this experience. Okay, let's see, a couple excessive lines. Why did I think that was the correct layer? There we go. Okay. It's all starting to come together. Okay. Once again, I have almost no reference for the legs. So there should probably be a couple of definition lines. Probably not solid black, though. Should be in a darker color of the pants themselves, and they definitely need pockets, because these just look like leggings at this point. I should actually widen these. Legs should meet at the center. Probably have a less pronounced crotch line as well. Okay. But I should move on to jacket detailing lines, or jacket detailing color, rather. So those are the bright yellows and grays of the safety bands, and the dark blacks and browns of the safety, or of, not of the safety belts, of the utility belts. So I'm just going to take a, let's see, silver, and I'll go down the center line of each of these safety bands. See, I need a slightly less rounded edge. Time to bring back the background. Silver is just close enough to white that it is difficult to see. Got the correct curves in. There we are. Connecting lines. I also realized that I should probably have a way, or I should probably set up my stream so that chat can appear on screen. Because that's something that most other streamers do, but I have not. Primarily because I'm not aware how to, and secondarily, until recently, I didn't have chat interaction, so there was no real need. Having the colored bands also helps in defining the shape of the limb that they're on, because the colors curve with the body. So that's convenient. It'll be exceptionally useful for the chest as well. Also, every time I'm changing layers or fiddling with something to do with the layers, that causes the bottom right portion of my screen to start flashing. And I have my chat up on my laptop. which is set slightly over to my left in my peripheral vision. So every time I see the flickering, it makes me think there's a new chat message. So I look over from what I'm doing on the right-hand side, because I think I should be replying to something. Let's see. It happens far more frequently when I am doing this with no viewers, because I need to catch people the second they say something, or else they tend not to stick around. Let's see, this should also be curving. It looks awkward at a flat angle. Let's see. So that'll be on layer torso. So that'll be a 0.2. Let's see, black line. See, I fiddled with the layers and I saw something flickering. I just paused my speech because I thought I had to reply. So I looked over to try and read something. Let's see. Yes, I think I just have the angle wrong on these armbands. Yes. Need to come up before they curve back down. Let's see, let's make the eraser a little bit smaller. I don't want to go pixel by pixel. So I think I just said make the eraser smaller. I meant to say larger. I'm not entirely certain what I'm saying right now. So you gotta make that curve more consistent. Well, I guess I don't really need to, because it's part of a jacket, not part of an arm. So it's allowed to look uneven as long as it's consistent. Okay. Let's see, let's get rid of this jacket detail right now, because everything around it needs to change. Back to jacket base color, get rid of the extra interior lines. Keep being a bit excessive there. Alright, I just had to get quiet there because I kept doing the same thing over and over again. I needed to focus a bit more for that one. Okay. My mind is also just, at this point, starting to run on empty. I want to reach a natural stopping point before I stop. I don't accomplish something concrete, at the very least, I won't feel accomplished. I need to see it through to the end. There we go. I drew it on the base color. Just need to trace over it then. It's not too big of an issue. I have some base color in the background color layer. Now I can just get rid of the extra little details. There we go. All right. Now more gray or silver. Guess it's a color closer to silver than gray. So how's the music holding up after 2 hours of having it in the background? I think I should have a bit more variety in what I'm playing, or is just having the one thing fine for now? Probably also the most active my stream has been in terms of engagement as well. I didn't do too badly on my New Year's stream. Yeah, it's just a royalty-free loop I have going. I think I might just finish the torso for today and get to work on the legs later. So that'll also include the axe as well. Okay. No, that curves up too much. Should be a flatter angle. Let's see. All right. Yes. The area where the silver or the interior lines have the most impact in defining shape. The center chest. So, let's see. Yes, I wish the viewer counter was more accurate. I need to know the small details more finely. Because at this point, I think it's just Moody in here. Mitz might still be in here, but the viewer count says 2. And I'm never entirely certain whether or not it's counting my own stream running on my laptop that I use to monitor chat. But but I'm not entirely certain. So let's see, what was I going to say? Oh, yes. Let's see, this is mainly directed towards Moody, who I believe is the only person left right now, but Miss Vey, Lithia Vey, and her rework. I am fairly excited for that. I'm interested to see what she comes up with. I believe you also follow her, which is why I brought up the topic in the first place. I didn't have too much more to say than that, other than it's interesting to see. So I think I actually saw you replying to one of her posts, and that was how I saw your channel. Or not your channel, but your account. Yes, she wanted to move in more of a say-so route. So she wanted to redesign her character. Which I find fairly interesting. Yeah, it's definitely more of a choice from personal preference, because as I think most people have seen, say-so VTubers tend to be a good deal less popular than our say-so-ant counterparts. So I'm very interested in the conclusion that she comes to. That's why it didn't work earlier. I'm coloring on the base layer. Oh, that's fine. It's still jacket color. Oof. I feel like my voice is also starting to rasp a lot more. But a lot of the time, I actually tend to prefer my own voice when I hear it when it's raspy. So perhaps I should just constantly overtax my own voice for streams. I never fixed this little line. Yes, I actually made a similar point in I don't remember who posted it, but they were talking about how what is it? How difficult it is for say-so VTubers to market themselves. And it's the same thing that happened with the pornography industry, and how pornography determined what format of media succeeded or failed. So in the war between VHS and Betamax, because porn was more widely available on VHS tapes, Betamax fell into disuse. Same thing with, what is it, DVD and compact disc. And then Blu-ray, and I believe there was a competition to Blu-ray, but I never remember what it's called. And people just follow the porn. It has historical precedent. So I'm not entirely surprised by it. But that is purely my own experience. Could be that other people understand things differently. Because in the Japanese market, which is sort of the origin point, I just saw your comments. I'm pausing to read them now. Yeah, okay. So that does tend to be some general consensus for trends. Say-so VTubers typically have slower growth, I would say. Not necessarily even bad growth, just slower. And it doesn't say anything about the top end. And even in those cases, there's no real saying whether or not you could be the lewdest VTuber in the world, but if your content isn't interesting, then you won't gain followers. It's not the idea behind VTubing is, I guess, more complex than just people who are horny control the market. It's kind of a difficult thing to put into words. But also, where is the missing line? But also, in the Japanese industry, there we go, where VTubers really originated from, say-so VTubers are far more common. If you just want to look at, I guess, numbers data, the agency I'm most familiar with is HoloLive, because that is what initially drew me to VTubers. But if you look at the quantity of say-so VTubers to non-say-so VTubers, it's there's only 2 that are specifically marketed as being non-say-so, which would be Marine and Matsuri. And the rest of them are fairly say-so, with some fairly obvious exceptions and lapses in character, but they all have fairly consistent growth rates, which makes me feel like VTubing in the East, specifically Japan, is a lot more personality-driven than it is in the West. And I think that also has to do with cultural differences. Because the West is far more sex-positive and open about sexuality, the sexual VTubers or non-say-so VTubers can get a lot more pull. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing at all. I'm not a particularly sexual person, as I fairly commonly display. However, I don't particularly mind what other people are doing. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think it's different markets. I do often feel like I should have looked into business and advertising for a potential career path, since that's also something that I find fairly interesting, analyzing market trends. I find a lot of very boring things very interesting. But I just like seeing lots of data and understanding why it is the way it is. Gathering the data, on the other hand, is something that I find a bit of a pain, so perhaps not. And this is all entirely anecdotal as well. Several people could have had vastly different experiences. Right. Another point that I've fairly frequently thought of in regards to why Western VTubers are far less say-so, for lack of a better term, is because of the origin of Western VTubers. Because the first truly popular mainstream Western VTuber was Project Melody, who originated on Chatterbait and is originally intended to be pornographic in nature. So it feels like the very identity of Western VTubers is almost based in lewdness. Once again, not saying that's a negative at all, it's just an observation. So it seems like something that's probably inseparable from the culture of Western VTubers. I don't think that, this is just personal conjecture, but I don't think that say-so VTubers in the West will reach the same, not popularity, but growth speed of non-say-so VTubers. But those are just personal thoughts. I do really need talking prompts. Once I get onto a topic that I'm properly interested in, I can go on for a fairly long time and in quite a bit of detail. It's very difficult for me to find those talking points that can drive me to passionate discussion. I'm also pausing right now because you were formulating an opinion. I realize that I don't really need to do that because I'm not actually talking over you, because you're talking to me in a text format, so. But I've sort of just run out of talking points right now, and I'm relaxing my voice. So, in your opinion with your personal observation, I guess. I'll probably read it out as well, what you say, so that if by some strange chance someone does watch the VOD, it doesn't look like I'm talking to myself. I always miss lines. Where is it? It's probably in here somewhere. I do wish the fill tool constrained itself to what is on the highest layer. Because if it did, that would make my job far easier. But alright, that's all of the safety bands dealt with. So now I can move on to the numerous belts. Okay, let's put that on a new layer as well. Right. Ooh, that's not quite brown. Guess I'll take the brownest color that I have. Okay. Alright. We don't even know if some will end up streaming or even do it for long. There's quite a boom in the amount of VTubers cropping up, and I've seen a few in the past few days even question if they really want to do this. Remodels. A couple have dropped from it entirely, stating they don't really feel it. They did it for one reason or another, but couldn't keep up. Are some just doing it for RP reasons? Who knows, right? That is also certainly something to consider. One of the things that I definitely note a fair amount in the indie scene is the very large amount of pre-debut VTubers who don't stream. So you're a pre-debut VTuber who does stream, and I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with being a pre-debut VTuber who doesn't stream. I don't think that's like an issue. When I was pre-debut, I didn't stream either, mainly because I didn't think about it honestly. But if I had thought about doing like PNG tubing beforehand, I probably would have done it. But there's a whole host of pre-debut VTubers who don't stream, and I typically will not follow someone unless I particularly like how they act on Twitter, or I watch their stream and I like how they act there. Because people on Twitter and on stream tend to be very different, personality-wise, and how they talk and carry themselves. But that's sort of just my perspective on it. I think I had a point here, but I don't quite remember what it was. I was saying something about pre-debut VTubers. Oh, that's right. And that's why I don't follow back a lot of people, because I get a lot of follows from, or most of my follows are from pre-debut VTubers who I'm only assuming here, but are typically following for a follow back, which is something that I don't do unless I personally enjoy their content, or I guess their content is just the short answer, whether it be on Twitter or on Twitch. But I tend to prefer to see how someone acts on stream rather than on Twitter. I don't know. That is a observation by me. Right, and I did have a further point. It was going back to whether or not people will stick with this. Constantly remaining non-say-so, if that isn't your personality, is definitely something that I feel would drive you away from continuing to do this. Which is also why I'm very glad that Lithia decided to address that concern that she saw growing before it actually reached a point where there wasn't any turning back. There's probably some other details that I could think of bringing up, but I don't have too much to say on the matter. Because initially I was also very disappointed by my slow growth in comparison to the non-say-so VTubers, to the point where I was considering attempting to change my image, my forward-facing image, just to try and gain more traction. But that's not something that I would be capable of doing long term, so I decided against it. Which is fine, because I'm more than satisfied with my current growth, honestly. I honestly probably wouldn't mind staying where I am. If I was to be hit with a curse that caused my growth to completely stagnate, I would probably be fine with that. For me, I had started on Twitch, but it felt empty. I didn't enjoy it. It felt cold, just a void. Didn't feel like I could be myself, and I would put up PNG on screen back then too. I don't know. I didn't know that. Oh, the text all moved. I lost my spot, and my vision's starting to get a bit unfocused. Friend actually went down the line, what felt like suddenly to me, but because I'm a mod for him, I saw a little bit of the community, and he said I should be a VTuber. Looked into it, decided to head down the path. Here I'm motivated, actually feeling place accepted, like a community is growing. It's nice to find a direction. Apologies as I'm typing, I'm fairly sleepy. That's fine. I'm fairly sleepy too, honestly. Yeah, I did try and grab a time slot that was... Not grab a time slot, but stream in a time slot that was slightly more available for you to watch in. But I've gone on far longer than I thought I would. This is, I think, my second longest stream so far. Alright, I'm gonna get the flat coloring done on the torso. I'm gonna call it. Okay, the shoulder straps are black. Let me just grab the metal color for the brackets on your arm, or on your shoulder band. Ah. Yes. I remember I used to have a nocturnal sleep pattern. Back when I didn't have a job or responsibilities. I felt crazy. My sleep schedule has been deteriorating recently for fairly similar reasons, but I'm not letting it get quite as out of hand as it did back then. I need to maintain some level of personal responsibility. And having a schedule for streaming does also help me. Not a schedule for streaming, I stream whenever I feel like it mainly, but I don't go too far outside of an self-allotted group of time. Okay, I'm just gonna grab a random color pick from around here for the shoulder straps and the belt. Belt's not actually originally part of the uniform, it just looked like it would fit there, so I added it. Yeah. It's, I also tend to be very wordy, so whenever I'm on Twitter, a lot of what I want to say doesn't fit into the allotted character limit. And I also use words like allotted, which take up a bunch of extra characters that could probably be filled by a smaller word. But that's sort of just how I talk. I can't do too much about it. Okay, I'm almost done. You'll be free soon. I will also be free soon, but that's another matter. Just gotta finish these lines. There's a bit outside. I'll erase that in a second. Okay. Alright. So. Oh no! I said I would finish the axe too. Alright, that'll take me like 5 seconds. It's fine. I don't have anything to color pick from. Any suggestions for the axe? Not the axe to be orange? I can do that. Orange handle. That's actually a thing, now that I think about it. Fire axes typically have bright handles, because they're not wood, they're plastic. It was like blood orange, I believe, was the specific descriptor you give. Let's see, what color would that be? I can turn off the background so that we can actually get an accurate color. Let's see. How's this? Blood orange? Is this blood orange? I don't know what that color actually is. But this seems about correct. It's what I would imagine the color blood orange to be. Maybe brighter? Yeah. We'll just stick to it so that we can finally be done with this. Okay. I'll just put it on a new layer. Axe. I don't know if you can tell, but you can sort of start to hear the desperation crawl into my voice as I am nearly finished. This happened a fair bit on my New Year's stream too, when I was finishing my Hololive art piece. But that was an even longer stream than this one. That was a 7-hour stream. And I think I only took one break for it. It was fun. But, I think I don't know. I think I like my speech patterns are falling apart. It was not something that agreed with me the following day, that's for sure. Surprisingly, it didn't actually have any effect on my voice, it was just my stamina that went out. Doing this has been causing me to talk for far more than I ever would normally, but it hasn't actually caused me to go hoarse at any point, not even when I started. Although, when I started, I was strictly limiting myself to 1 hour of streaming each day, and not exceeding that limit. But at this point, I'm sort of carefree with how long my streams go. Okay, so for the axe head, we need sort of grayish silver color on the lighter color side of the spectrum. Yeah, that looks about right. Actually surprised I picked such a fitting color just by randomly fiddling with the color wheel. Okay, and the back of the axe head is red. It's always red. Let's see. I think that's slightly too bright. Let me darken it a little. Less dark. There we go. That seems like a Firefighter red. Alright, just about done. Well, just about done for today. There's still far more to work on. I'm going a bit silent right now because I'm focusing on not going outside the line, so I have less to go back on. Because if I have to go back and fix a whole bunch of stuff, that's going to take... Actually, don't know. Wonder if I could time that just in order to figure out whether it's faster for me to be careful to not go outside of the lines, or whether or not it's faster to be reckless with coloring and then fixing up small details afterwards. I like efficiency. So if I could waste as little time as possible, that would be ideal. There we are. Perfect. I think the spike on the opposite end is actually colored in the sharp color. The color that makes the axe sharp. My voice is really fading right now. Okay. If you look at it from the waist up, looks mostly finished. There's still something about the chest itself that I feel could be a bit more detailed. Perhaps I'll work on that tomorrow. But other than that, I'm fairly satisfied. Yeah, I'm gonna go drink some water after this, but thanks for being around for, I think, almost the entire stream. You came in, what, around 10 minutes after the start? 5-10 minutes after? So this has been a good 3.5 hours. Thanks for being around, Moody. You enjoy the rest of your day trying to get sleep, or whatever it is you're gonna do. I'm gonna drink a lot of water, probably some orange juice as well. Yeah. You enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for your time.